spirit of the Golden Empire. Now, from Kern Golden Empire Television, 17 News at Sunrise.
Straight ahead this morning. Kidnapped by gunmen January 7th while on her way to interview a Sunni Arab politician in Baghdad. Her translator was killed.
Well, the streets of Bakersfield here at home were transformed into a sea of students yesterday as thousands of high schoolers staged a walkout to protest immigration reform. Now, an email circulating that is asking those students to do it again. Clint live this morning at Bakersfield High School with more on what that email has to say. Good morning, Clint.
Good morning, Kiyoshi. Bakersfield High School students linked up with other students from about a dozen schools around Kern County yesterday. They started walking around 8 yesterday morning, and they ended up in front of Superior Court at the Liberty Bell, where they took part in a protest that lasted for 2 or 3 hours there. You can see some pictures from it yesterday. They were there for, as I said, about 2 or 3 hours, and there were about, BPD estimates, 4,000 of them there. These are kids from BHS, North, East, South, Golden Valley, Foothill, West, Vista, and Centennial. Now, they heard about it. We talked with them. They said through MySpace and text messages and emails, and also through calling each other on the phone. Now, yesterday evening, another email went out, and 17 News has obtained a copy of it. I can read you just a piece of it. It says, "Now we're changing the rules every day this week. Please walk out of school. All pro-immigrant students, please walk out of school. Don't be afraid. We're doing it over and over every day this week. We're going to stop HR 4377, and we're going to make history." Back live out here at Bakersfield High School. Yesterday, 17 News talked with authorities with the Kern High School District. They said that they're going to be dealing with truancy harshly, and we talked with the district attorney's office, and some of these students, too, these habitual class cutters, are going to be dealt with through the legal system, too. So not a good idea to walk out today. The Kern High School District discouraging it, as well as law enforcement. Yesterday, there were riot police down at the, there were police and riot police standing by at the Liberty Bell in case things got out of hand. They didn't, but of course, no one encouraged to walk out of school today. Reporting live from BHS, Clint Olivier, 17 News.
All right, thanks, Clint. 17 Newsmakers. And the Senate debate on border security and immigration continues today on Capitol Hill. In fact, it's going on right now in Washington, D.C.
That's right. And now with some perspective on the legislation, which, of course, is stirring up a lot of controversy. We're joined by Jess Nieto of the Heritage of America Foundation and Cultural Foundation, and Jim Lopez, chairman of the Republican National Hispanic Assembly. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jess, let's start with you. You were one of the backers of the movie that showed Walkout, that was showed about 2 weeks ago at the Fox Theater, talking about the 1968 East Los Angeles walkout of some students there protesting education. Were you proud of the students that walked out yesterday from the classrooms?
I think there was a great deal of pride in the whole community because it demonstrated that these students were expressing a sense of empowerment and a sense of frustration and anger with the craziness of the legislation that has been discussed in Washington. And so I think that there was some great a deal of pride in their group.
And Mr. Lopez, what do you think? Because some of the students, quite a few of them that we talked with, really didn't even have any idea why they were walking out. Do you think a lot of them do have a good understanding of what's going on and are, in fact, expressing their beliefs?
That's the irony about the whole thing. These students are out there protesting something they know nothing about. You know, they're protesting about the rights of being here in America while walking around with the Mexican flag. What's the message? You know, it just seems ridiculous that you would think that I would venture to say the majority of those kids that are out there should have been in classroom trying to learn something about what this government's all about. They go out and protest because they pay more attention to the propaganda than they do to their subjects in school. You know, if I was going to go to Mexico with an American flag and demand rights in Mexico, how far do you think I'd get along over there?
Jess Nieto, let's talk about that. We saw yesterday one of the students holding an American flag upside down, saying that even though he understood it was a distress signal, he said America's in distress. What is your reaction to this? Is this a bunch of propaganda?
I don't think it's propaganda. I think that's an oversimplistic approach to looking at a very complex issue. The fact is that the kids expressing this particular point of view represents a historic new civil rights movement. What's happening across the country is that these demonstrations represent the biggest demonstrations in the history of this country in terms of civil protest. They're bigger than Vietnam. They're bigger than the civil rights movement, or at least rivaling that. And the use of the different flags is reflective not only that they're proud of being here, there were plenty of American flags, but the Mexican flags denote ethnic pride, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's an important part of our society.
And Mr. Lopez, what's your reaction? Do you think the students were making a point by holding the American flag upside down? Because I know a lot of folks watching were taken aback by seeing that.
Well, as an American veteran and a Vietnam veteran, if I found a student out there with a flag upside down, I'd turn that student upside down so my flag would be right side up. You know, if you're going to go out there and you're going to protest something, at least know what it is you're protesting about. And this thing about Mexican flags, we're in the United States. If they want to have Mexican flags and they're so proud of the government and the way Mexico's run, then they ought to go back to Mexico. You know, nobody is keeping them here. The thing about it is we fought hard. I'm 69 years old, and I was raised out here in the valley, working in the fields and everything else, trying to do something myself. My father came and my mother came from Hermosillo, Sonora, Mexico. And it's not easy for us to make headway when you got these young students thinking they know everything about it, and the professors in the universities are so left liberals that they're really brainwashing our youth. You know, you might want to say, well, they have a right to demonstrate. That's right. You all have a right to demonstrate, but you got that right because of the veterans that fought for that right, not because of these idiots that are out there trying to brainwash your mind.
And Jess Nieto, let's talk about that. Yesterday we talked to Cal State Bakersfield professor, political science professor Mark Martinez. He called this, and I'm using his words, a wedge issue used by Republicans to distract from the president's sagging numbers at the polls, and also used by Republicans to distract from the war in Iraq, because a lot of people don't agree with that, and we're taking issue to that. Do you think that the Republicans are using this as a wedge issue? Agree or disagree, Jess?
Well, I don't necessarily agree 100%, but I do believe that the Republicans are facing a very strong dilemma. On the one hand, to support a piece of legislation that hopefully will be humane, compassionate, and comprehensive in addressing the needs of our society, the needs of our workforce, and at the same time responding to the right wing of the Republican Party that takes a very, very strident attitude towards this particular position, and even takes a punitive, vindictive kind of a mean-spirited approach. So we want to see a well-balanced proposal, and the McCain-Kennedy proposal, we think, is a reasonable approach to a very complicated problem. So from that perspective, I think that Republicans need to look at this in a much more balanced perspective, as opposed to an extreme approach that some of the members of the party are taking.